This is Big Podcast.
Build a Big Podcast, the marketing podcast for podcasters. David Hooper with you, and this is a different type of episode. I'm taking you behind the scenes of a promo that I'm working on. I just wrote this up. I'll get into this in just a second about what I'm doing. I think you're going to find it interesting. This is all about marketing. This may be something that will be helpful to you in your podcast. If you ever get a radio job, this is going to be helpful to you. Before I get to it, let me explain kind of the behind the scenes of the job. A lot of people think that if you're a host on the radio, that you walk into a room and there's a microphone and the show is an hour long and you work an hour and then you walk out of that room and that is done. That is not the case. There are things that you need to do if you want to stay at the radio station and have a great show. Same with a podcast, that involve getting more listeners to listen to that show. The difference between radio and podcasting, though, this is why a lot of podcasters don't think about this, is because podcasts can't be canceled. Radio, you've got 24 hours of the day, and if you're not getting the ratings that the radio station wants, they're going to kick you off and bring somebody else in. Podcasting, who cares? Just put you and the next guy and the next guy and the next girl. Put them all up there. It's all good. There's a lot of room in podcasting, and I think that's great. But radio, a little bit different. You've got to work on promotions. And this is something that we're trying to do with the show that I've got. It's called Music Business Radio. This is basically my transition into broadcast, is that I had a bit of a broadcasting experience from my work in the music business, but music business is what I was doing. And it just so happened I was the guy with the biggest mouth in the room. So now I'm the host of this show when I started it. When the show started on radio, at the same time podcasting was coming up, this is 2005, I thought, why don't we put it on as a podcast? And that's how transitions work, from music to radio and then more into podcasting. So one of the things that we are doing with this show about the music business is to keep that audience and keep the audience engaged. We are doing live events. One of those live events that we can do is we can bring in a live audience to do a live taping. Basically, it's a live broadcast, but since we tape the show, it's a long format interview show. We don't do that live. It's just, there's too much that can go wrong, especially this one. I've got something coming up. It's a live event. It's 3 guests. It's at a big event that has roughly 1,000 people. They're not going to be 1,000 people watching me do this, but arguably several hundred. I did it last year. I did it the year before. And, dozens of people to a couple hundred people, let's say that, in a live studio audience. We're trying to go to our radio listeners, the people who are on the broadcast station, and say, come on down, be part of this. We want to get you more engaged in the show. So we've got a promo running for about the next 10 days. It is going to promote the big event called RocknPod, the one with about 1,000 people there. It's also going to bring people in to listen to our live broadcast. We hope. That's the goal here. I wrote up a promo. This is going to air for the next 10 days. I'm trying to get it into 30 seconds. I wasn't really thinking about that. What I first think about is, am I saying everything that I need to say? I was going to read it and time myself. So that's present time. That's where I am right now. So you're going to hear me read this promo, and I have a clock running. And here we go. It's David Hooper from Music Business Radio. Saturday, March 18th, we're doing a live taping of Music Business Radio, and you're invited to attend as our guest. The topic, reality television for musicians. Of course, I'm going to say this properly. All right. That was 15 seconds. I'm going to have a hard time doing this in 30. I'm going to start this again. You're watching sausage get made, man. It's David Hooper from Music Business Radio. Saturday, March 18th, we're doing a live taping of Music Business Radio, and you're invited to attend as our guest. The topic, reality television for musicians. I'm talking with 3 musicians from America's Got Talent, The 4, Battle for Stardom, and MTV's Real World about the good, bad, and ugly of being on reality television, what these musicians thought would happen, and what actually happened. It's all part of RocknPod Expo, March 18th at the Nashville Fairgrounds. We've got a limited supply of free tickets for you at lightning100.com/ticket window. If you've ever thought about being on reality television, or you're just curious about how it really works, you won't want to miss this. Get your free tickets to attend our live taping of Music Business Radio at lightning100.com/ticket window. All right, that's 48 seconds. Kind of fumbled through that. I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing. I'm going to go through this slowly. I'm probably not going to be able to chop this down too much. I'm going to go to my producer next. But let me explain what's happening. I say, hey, it's David Hooper from Music Business Radio. That lets people know it's me, and it gives them the show that they are familiar with. So that's where I'm leading with. I'm giving them the date of the event instantly, and then I'm saying that we are doing a live taping of Music Business Radio. I'm saying the show again because if I didn't get their attention when I said it the first time, hopefully I'll get their attention the second time. This is a show that people are familiar with. A lot of the people who listen to the station know of the show. They're listening to it, and I want them to perk up a little bit. So I'm saying it twice in about the first 7 seconds or so. The topic, reality television for musicians. I'm going straight into that because being in Nashville, there are a lot of musicians here. And per capita, the audience of this station, I would argue there are more musicians listening to it than almost any station in the country. So I'm going for it. Reality television for musicians. A lot of musicians think that this is the way for them to be famous, get discovered, get a deal, sell records. So that's a great topic. Went straight into it. And that's in about, the first 10 seconds of this thing. I'm going for it. Music Business Radio, giving the date, Music Business Radio. Again, I want you to participate. And here's the topic. Then what I'm doing, and I'm not giving the musicians that I'm talking to because I didn't think that it was as common knowledge as the shows. I'm listing the shows. People will know America's Got Talent. The Four, you may or may not know The Four. Meghan Trainor, P. Diddy. Some different people have been on that. Fergie is the host. Anyway, talking about The Four, Battle for Stardom. I said Battle for Stardom on there, even though most people know it as The Four, because that's going to be better if you don't know that show. And also MTV's Real World. I want to throw MTV in there, even though it's just called The Real World. The good, bad, the ugly of reality television, and then kind of hyping it up, what they thought would happen and what really happened. Then I finally get to the name of the event. It's called RocknPod Expo. Give the date again, give the location, and I'm getting people to come to the website. So this is the first mention of the website, lightning100.com/ticket window. Got those free tickets that I'm going to give away. Then at the end, free tickets, Music Business Radio, lightning100.com/ticket window. Probably what I need to do is add March 18th one more time at the very end. So I've got a 48 second ad. I'm giving the date 3 times. I'm saying Music Business Radio 3 times, giving the URL twice, talking about reality television 1, 2, 3 times. So you can see it's a super dense ad, more or less assuming that people are not paying attention at the beginning, and then they perk up when I say something again. That's why I'm doubling it up. So, what'd you say? Oh, here's what he said at the beginning. Like they can go back in the recorder of their brains and say, oh, that's what he said. It's David from Music Business Radio. When I say Music Business Radio the second time, oh yeah, it's that guy. They'll have heard my voice. Anyway, that's how you do a promo. So here I am working through it. I wanted to bring you along on it. By the way, if you are in Nashville, do reach out to me. Let me know if you can make RocknPod March 18th. It's going to be a fun time. A lot of people there, members of Twisted Sister will be there, Mr. Big, Accept, Dangerous Toys. I don't know. I mean, I did an interview with one of the guys from Megadeth a couple years ago. I had the original MTV VJs, or I'm going to call them the original MTV VJs. Mark Goodman, he was there. Ricky Rackman, he'll actually be there this year again from Headbangers Ball. Matt Pinfield was there last year. I did an interview with him. So if you're interested in the music business, you're a musician, you're somebody who's got a podcast about the music business, there are going to be a ton of great music business podcasters there, 70 plus music podcasters exhibiting, and dozens of others. Like I said, about 1,000 people there. It's going to be a big event. Do reach out to me. Bigpodcast.com is how to do that. Or RocknPod.com, or as I've already said in this ad, lightning100.com/ticket window. Those are the giveaways that we've got, a limited supply of giveaways. But I'd love to get you one of them if you're able to make it. I will see you there. Maybe I'll see you here. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, if you want to follow up from RocknPod as I guide you through this, kind of take you behind the scenes of these live events that we do regarding podcasting and broadcasting and the things that you do There'll be plenty of tips to help you if you're doing a live event associated with your podcast. This is how to subscribe to the podcast. The URL is bigpodcast.com/subscribe. I make it very easy. Bigpodcast.com/subscribe. Type that in. Then you're going to pick your poison. iPhone, got a button for you. Android, got a button for you. I've got an RSS feed. I've got a code that you can scan on your phone. It takes the podcast from the Big Podcast server to your phone. You can listen to it whenever and wherever you are. You can listen to it on the way to RocknPod. Bigpodcast.com/subscribe. Thank you very much for listening. Subscribe now before you forget. I will see you on the next episode of Build a Big Podcast.